My dead twin's girlfriend drugged me and shaved off my beard so I'd look more like him. When I begged her to stop, she giggled and said, "You need to look more like yourself, Daniel." I just stared at her. That was 4 months ago. Yesterday, she collapsed, was declared mentally unstable, and that was only the beginning. I lost my identical twin brother, Daniel, 2 years ago when he took his own life. I didn't even know he was struggling until I found him hanging from the ceiling in my apartment. His girlfriend, Elise, came over 3 days later, holding takeout from that Thai place Daniel loved. My alcoholic parents were too busy drowning in bottles to be there for me, so Elise became the only person who really got what I was going through. We spent hours watching old videos of Daniel pulling stupid twin pranks back in college. She kept saying how comforting it was to see my face because it made her feel like Daniel wasn't completely gone. But a month after the funeral, Elise showed up with his cologne and his old jersey, asking me to wear them. Said her therapist recommended it as part of the grieving process. I agreed, maybe it could help me too. As soon as I put it on, her face lit up in a way I'd never seen before. But it didn't stop there. Elise started bringing over Daniel's exact breakfast order from the deli and would get upset when I added hot sauce. Daniel hated spicy food. She'd physically adjust my posture on the couch to match how Daniel used to slouch. But that wasn't the worst of it. One night we were watching a movie on the couch when she said it. "Daniel, can you pass me the popcorn?" she asked sweetly. I froze. That wasn't my name, it was his. Since no one else was around, I figured I could gently correct her. "Elise, I know you miss him, but I can't be his replacement." "But you've always been the same person in two bodies." I thought she was joking, until she showed me dozens of photo collages she'd made. Me and Daniel standing back to back. "See, you look so similar. This is proof that he's living through you." That night, while she slept, I called her parents. After the usual pleasantries, I carefully hinted that Elise might be showing signs of complex grief or PTSD. I expected concern, questions about her behavior, but instead, they said, "Our baby girl is suffering because of a choice your brother made. You owe it to her to keep her happy, whatever it takes." Then they hung up. I already believed Daniel's death was somehow my fault. Their response only confirmed the guilt I carried. So when Elise practically moved into Daniel's old room, I let her. That's how we ended up sitting in silence at 2 a.m., drinking Prosecco and thinking about Daniel. I must have passed out on the couch, because when I woke up, my head was pounding and my mouth was drier than the Sahara. I stumbled to the mirror and froze. My beard was gone. My face, once full and familiar, was now clean-shaven. I rushed back to Elise, shaking her awake. "Elise, what the hell is going on?" I asked again and again. She stirred, smiled, and touched my bare cheek. "Hey, handsome, I missed you so much." My heart sunk. "Elise, did you do this?" "Of course I did. You need to look more like yourself, Daniel." Before I could react, she climbed on top of me and kissed me. I tried to push her off gently, not wanting to hurt her, but she screamed like I was attacking her. "Your body will remember me if you stop fighting it." Then she began tearing off her clothes. I grabbed her wrists, trying to stop her. "Elise, he's gone. It hurts me too, but we have to let him go. This isn't your fault." She nodded slowly like she understood. I let her go, and she ran to the bathroom. I thought that was the end of it, until she came back holding a pair of scissors. "Every time you deny him, you're killing him again," she said, dragging the blades across her skin. I backed away, reaching for my phone with trembling hands to call 911. I knew then the Elise I used to know died with Daniel. The operator told me to stay on the line, but Elise snatched my phone and hurled it across the room. "Daniel, stop being so dramatic," she said, blood trickling down her arms. "I'm just reminding you what happens when you pretend to be dead." I tried to move toward the door, but she blocked me. "You're not leaving me again," she said, brandishing the scissors. "Elise, please," I begged. "I'm Alex. You know I'm Alex. Daniel is gone." She shook her head and with her free hand pulled out her phone. "I have proof you're lying." She showed me a video from the night before, when I had been passed out drunk on the couch. She'd been speaking to me as if I were Daniel, and apparently I had mumbled back in my sleep. "See, you answer to Daniel when you're not fighting it. Your body knows who you really are." Then, knocking at the door, police. Elise stood between me and the door, scissors catching the pale morning light.
The knocking grew louder. "Open up! We received a 911 call from this address." She looked me dead in the eyes and pressed the scissors to her throat just enough to draw blood. "Tell them everything's fine," she whispered, "or I'll show you the video where you admit you pushed him." Ice surged through my veins. I'd never said that, but if she recorded me mumbling in my sleep, what else had she gotten me to say? "Police, we need to verify everyone's safety." Elise's hand trembled, blood trickling down her neck. "Say it, Daniel. Tell them we're fine." I took a careful step toward the door, hands raised. Elise moved with me, blocking the way. Her other hand gripped her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "Everything's okay," I called out, voice cracking. "Just a misunderstanding." "Sir, we need to see both parties. Please open the door." She shook her head violently, more blood appearing. Then she mouthed the words, "You pushed him." My heart raced. If I opened the door, she might hurt herself worse. If I didn't, they'd break it down. Either way, I was trapped. "She's hurting herself," I finally shouted. "Please help!" Elise's face twisted in rage. "He's trying to kill me like he did Daniel!" The door burst open. 2 officers charged in, weapons drawn. They took in the scene. Elise collapsed on the floor, blood on her arms and neck. Scissors clattered to the hardwood. I stood over her, my hands stained from trying to stop her earlier. "Step away from her, hands where we can see them." I backed against the wall, hands raised. "This is insane! I'm Alex! She shaved me when I was passed out drunk! Hands on the wall, now!" I obeyed, pressing my palms to the cool plaster. He patted me down while his partner radioed for medics. Elise continued her performance, whispering about how he'd trapped me for days. The paramedics arrived quickly, tending to her wounds as she murmured to the female officer. I heard fragments: captive, impersonating, dangerous. Elise's phone buzzed where it lay on the floor. The screen was still lit up, showing the video. She looked at me and smiled through her tears. "Officers, there's a video on her phone," I said. "She recorded me while I was unconscious. She's been planning this." The female officer picked up the phone. Elise began hyperventilating. "Don't let him near it. He'll delete the evidence." "Evidence of what?" the officer asked. "Of what he did to Daniel. He admitted everything last night." The officer played the video. I watched their expressions shift as they listened to my slurred, unconscious replies to Elise's careful leading questions. She'd made it sound like a confession. "That's not what it looks like," I said. "I was passed out. She was putting words in my mouth." The male officer pulled out cuffs. "Sir, you're being detained."
For questioning. You have the right to remain silent. Elise reached for the female officer's hand. "There's more. Check his phone. He's been using Daniel's accounts, his email, his social media. He's trying to become him." My phone sat untouched on the coffee table. Dread bloomed in my chest as I realized Elise had full access to it while I was unconscious. What had she done? The paramedics insisted on transporting both of us to the hospital. Elise for her injuries, me for evaluation. They said I was showing signs of shock. Elise insisted we ride together for safety. The officers agreed. Strapped to the gurney, I watched Elise continue her performance. She clutched the paramedic's hand, her voice soft and trembling as she recounted her ordeal. The paramedic, a young woman with gentle eyes, kept glancing at me with disgust. "He seemed so normal at first. After Daniel died, he was just Alex, but then he started changing, wearing Daniel's clothes, using his cologne, making me call him by his brother's name." The paramedic gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're safe now." Elise turned her head to look at me. For a brief second, the sweetness dropped from her expression. I saw the cold calculation behind her eyes. Then it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced again by trembling vulnerability. "I tried to leave so many times, but he said if I told anyone, he'd make it look like I was crazy, that no one would believe Daniel's grieving girlfriend over his own twin." When we arrived at the hospital, they separated us immediately. Elise was taken for treatment. I was escorted to a room for psychiatric evaluation. Officers stood guard outside. Through the small window in the door, I saw a sudden commotion in the hallway. Elise's parents had arrived. Her mother brushed past my door, shouting loud enough for the entire floor to hear.
"Thank God you saved her from him, officers. We knew something was wrong when she stopped answering our calls." That was a lie. They'd hung up on me when I tried to warn them about Elise weeks ago. But who would believe me now? A nurse came in to check my vitals. She avoided eye contact, barely spoke. The word had already spread. In her mind, I was the unhinged twin who'd held his brother's grieving girlfriend hostage. My phone buzzed from inside an evidence bag on the counter. I couldn't access it, but I saw the screen light up with notification after notification. I caught a glimpse of one from a mutual friend. "Dude, why is Elise posting about being rescued? What happened?" She was already controlling the narrative. By the time I got out, if I got out, everyone would have her version of the story. An hour later, the psychiatrist arrived. According to his badge, his name was Dr. Patel. He sat down across from me with a clipboard and an analytical look that made me feel more like a case study than a patient. "I'm going to ask you a few questions," he said. "Please answer honestly. My name is Alex, not Daniel. Daniel is dead. He took his life 2 years ago." Dr. Patel made a small note. "Tell me about your relationship with Elise." I told him everything. Daniel's death, Elise's grief, her gradual descent into delusion, how she shaved me while I was unconscious, how she'd staged this entire scenario. Dr. Patel nodded occasionally, jotting things down in silence. When I finished, he looked up. "Alex, Elise's parents have provided some concerning information. They claim you've been calling their home pretending to be Daniel, that you've accessed his bank accounts. That's not true. I only called them once as myself to express concern about Elise's mental health. They have phone records of multiple calls." My stomach turned. Elise, she must have used my phone while I was asleep, calling them as Daniel. How long had she been planning this? "She had access to my phone," I said, my voice shaking. "She could have made those calls, pretended to be me or him." Dr. Patel tilted his head slightly, his tone skeptical. "That seems elaborate." I could hear how it all sounded, like the wild ramblings of someone truly disturbed. Elise had thought through everything, every step, every possible angle. The rest of the evaluation dragged on for over an hour, and by the end of it, I could tell. Dr. Patel had made his decision. I was a threat. Or delusional. Maybe both. They placed me on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. "For your safety," they said, "and for Elise's." That night, lying in a narrow hospital bed, under thin white sheets, I stared at the ceiling and tried to make sense of what had happened. Elise had orchestrated everything, every move. But why? What was the end game? I got my answer the next morning, when my parents showed up. They stumbled into my room reeking of vodka and stale regret, despite the early hour. My mother wouldn't even look at me. "Maybe it's better this way," she slurred. "If you want to be Daniel so bad, he was always the good one anyway." My father nodded in agreement. "Daniel wouldn't have done this to that poor girl." They left after 5 minutes. Their son was dead, and now they were losing the spare. But they were too deep in their bottles to care. That afternoon, a social worker came by with news that made my blood run cold. "Elise is claiming she's pregnant," she said gently. "She says it's Daniel's baby, and that you've been forcing her to pretend it's yours." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity was overwhelming. Daniel's been dead for 2 years. How could she possibly be pregnant with his child? The social worker's face remained carefully neutral. "She says she froze his genetic material before he passed. That you've been trying to steal your brother's legacy." Elise had thought of everything, each lie woven from half-truths, twisted facts, and emotional manipulation, and I was trapped in the middle of her web. That evening, a different nurse delivered my dinner. She was older, with gray streaks in her bun and sharp, knowing eyes. As she placed the tray down, she leaned in and whispered, "I've seen this before. Not exactly this, but close enough. Document everything. Every conversation, every detail. Write it down. You'll need it." Before I could even reply, she was gone. I spent that night writing, frantically cataloging every moment, every red flag from the past month, the way Elise had slowly embedded herself into my life, how she preyed on my grief, and how her coping had evolved into something terrifying and unhinged. By morning, I had pages of notes. But what good were they? Who would believe the diary of a man accused of becoming his dead brother? The answer came in an unexpected form. My public defender, Sarah Chen, actually listened to me. She read through every word of my notes without interrupting, only stopping now and then to ask for clarification. "There are inconsistencies in Elise's story," she finally said. "The timeline doesn't add up, but she's convincing, and she has evidence. Fabricated evidence. Then prove it," she said. "That's the challenge. If we're going to beat this, we need to find a way to prove Elise manipulated everything." But how could I prove it when she had used my own grief and guilt as tools against me? Sarah promised to investigate, to look for holes in Elise's claims, but she warned me it would take time. And meanwhile, Elise was free to spin her narrative however she wanted. The next day brought another blow. The police had searched my apartment. They found Daniel's belongings everywhere. His clothes hanging in my closet, his cologne and toiletries in my bathroom, his photos on my walls. "I didn't put those there," I said quickly. "It had to be Elise." "When?" the detective asked flatly. "When did she have time to redecorate your entire apartment?" That's when it hit me. She'd been doing it little by little every time she came over. Bit by bit, she turned my home into a shrine for Daniel. I had been too drunk, too consumed by grief to notice. The detective showed me even more disturbing evidence. Photos pulled from my laptop, browser searches like how to access deceased person's accounts, and legal name change after twins' death. Emails sent from my account to Daniel's former employer, inquiring about returning to his old job. I didn't do this. Then who did? The answer was obvious, but saying it out loud sounded delusional. Elise. She had played the long game, and she had played it perfectly. On the final day of my psychiatric hold, Dr. Patel delivered his assessment. Possible dissociative identity disorder. Complicated grief presenting as identity confusion. Recommended outpatient treatment. Continued monitoring. I was being released, but not free. There was a restraining order. I couldn't go within 500 feet of Elise. Couldn't contact her or her family. Couldn't access any of Daniel's accounts. Not that I ever had. Sarah met me at the discharge desk. She had news, but not the kind I wanted to hear. "Elise's story is gaining traction," she said. "She gave an interview to a local blog, claimed she's a survivor of domestic abuse. She's getting a lot of support." My stomach turned. "What about the inconsistencies you found?" "They're still there, but she has explanations for everything." Sarah paused and then added, "And Alex, she has a pregnancy test. It's positive." I slumped into the nearest chair, my legs no longer willing to hold me up. "That's impossible," I whispered. "She's lying about the frozen sperm. Daniel never did that." "Can you prove it?" I couldn't. Daniel was gone. The only person who could refute Elise's claim was 6 feet under. Sarah drove me to a cheap motel. My apartment was still an active crime scene, and even after it was cleared, my landlord had already started eviction proceedings. Too much drama, too much negative attention. That night, alone, in a dingy room that smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke, I finally understood the full extent of Elise's plan, scope of what Elise had done. She hadn't just tried to bring Daniel back through me, she'd erased me in the process. I had no job. I'd been fired for missing too many days. No home, no friends. Everyone believed Elise's story. No identity. In the eyes of the world, I was the disturbed twin who tried to steal his brother's life. The police had returned my phone, wiped clean by their forensics team. The first thing I did was check social media. Big mistake. Elise's posts were everywhere. Artistic black and white photos of her injuries, poignant captions about survival and healing, hundreds of comments showering her with support, calling me a monster, praising her courage. One post froze me in place, an ultrasound image. Daniel's last gift, the caption read. His brother tried to take everything from me, but he couldn't take this. The comments were filled with awe, people marveling at the miracle, admiring her strength and foresight to preserve Daniel's legacy, condemning me for trying to take it from her. I threw the phone. It hit the wall and dropped to the floor, screen cracked but still glowing, still functioning. Like me. Barely. The next few days blurred into a grim loop. I tried finding work. Every employer Googled me. I tried finding an apartment. Every landlord ran a background check. Elise's lies had poisoned every corner of my life. A week after my release, I saw her. I was in a grocery store, scraping together change to buy instant ramen and cheap beer. She was in the produce aisle, gently pressing avocados. Her stomach was just starting to round, too much for a pregnancy that, according to her timeline, was only a few weeks along. She saw me the same instant I saw her. Her eyes widened, sparkling with perfectly timed fear. She dropped the avocados and stumbled backward, cradling her belly. "Help! He's violating the restraining order!" I turned and ran. Behind me, voices shouted. Someone yelled to call 911. I left everything behind, groceries, dignity, and sprinted for the exit. I made it to my car, but I knew it was already over. There would be security footage, eyewitnesses. It didn't matter that it had been a coincidence. I'd violated the order. Sarah called an hour later. "Turn yourself in," she said. "We'll explain it was accidental." But who would believe that? According to Elise's story, I was obsessed, unstable, stalking her. This just confirmed what they already believed. I sat in the motel room and watched the sun set through smudged glass, and then made a decision. I couldn't fight Elise's story, not directly, not when she had laid the groundwork so thoroughly, so strategically, not when the world had already picked a side. But I could find the truth. Daniel had taken his life, that much was undeniable. But why? He had never shown signs of depression, never mentioned suicidal thoughts. Something had driven him to that moment, and Elise had been with him in the weeks leading up to it. I opened my laptop and started digging. Nothing illegal, just public records, old social media posts, online footprints, anything that could shed light on what really happened. What I found made my stomach drop. Posts from Daniel in the final weeks of his life, ones I'd never seen, too caught up in work, too naively confident that my twin was okay. Vague messages about feeling trapped, about someone not respecting his boundaries, about fear. The timing lined up with when he and Elise had started dating. I dug deeper, found comments from friends asking if he was all right. His replies were cryptic. "Just dealing with some stuff. It's complicated. Sometimes love isn't enough." Then, 1 week before he died, the posts stopped. His social media went dark. At the time, I'd assumed he was just happy, quiet, in love. Now I wondered if he'd been silenced. I called Sarah, told her everything I'd found. She listened, but her voice was cautious. "Alex, I get that you're looking for answers, but Daniel's gone. We can't ask him what happened. But this shows a pattern. Elise's behavior with me, it didn't come out of nowhere. What if this wasn't the first time? It's not evidence, and honestly, going down this path only makes you look more obsessed, not less." She was right, but I couldn't let it go. Daniel deserved better than to have his death turned into a prop in Elise's twisted performance. That night, I dreamed of him. He was standing in the motel room just like he used to look. Same crooked grin, same posture, weight on his left foot, head tilted ever so slightly. You can't save me, but you can save yourself. I woke up with tears running down my cheeks, and I knew what I had to do.
I stopped fighting Elise's narrative about me. Let her have her story. Let her cling to her fabricated pregnancy and her sea of sympathetic supporters. But I would find the truth about what really happened to Daniel. Not for revenge, not to clear my name, for him. This investigation would have to be careful, quiet. I couldn't afford another restraining order violation, couldn't give Elise more ammunition. But somewhere, buried beneath the lies, was the truth about why my twin chose to die. And maybe, just maybe, that truth could set us both free. I opened a blank document on my laptop and began to write everything I could remember about Daniel's last days, every text, every conversation, every subtle sign I'd missed. It was time to stop being a victim in Elise's story and start unearthing the real one. The story of Daniel and Elise, of love warped into obsession, of manipulation dressed as mourning, of a man who tried to escape the same web she was now trying to trap me in, using my grief and guilt like threads. But I wasn't Daniel. I wouldn't make his choice. I would survive this. I would document everything, and I would find the truth for both of us. My motel room became a makeshift investigation center. Daniel's old photos lined the walls. I scrolled timelines on scraps of paper. I mapped out every interaction between him and Elise that I could remember. My laptop glowed late into the night with archived social media posts, each one a breadcrumb in a trail I should have followed 2 years ago. 3 days into my search, I found something. A comment on Daniel's Instagram from someone named Jake, posted 2 weeks before his death. "Bro, you okay? That thing at the coffee shop looked intense." Daniel had replied, "It's handled." I messaged Jake from a new account, explaining who I was. His response came fast. "Holy crap, Alex. I've been seeing Elise's posts. None of this makes sense. Can we meet?" We arranged to meet at a public park, outside the radius of the restraining order. Jake arrived looking anxious, eyes scanning the area like he thought Elise might be lurking. He sat at the far end of the bench, clearly unsure of me. "That day at the coffee shop," he said without preamble, "Elise was off. She kept touching Daniel, adjusting his clothes, fixing his hair. He looked uncomfortable." I clenched my fists. "When he tried to leave, she grabbed his wrist hard, like left marks hard. Said something like, 'You can't abandon me like everyone else.'" "What did Daniel do?" I asked. "He looked terrified. Apologized over and over, trying to calm her down. She started crying, saying he was all she had." Jake paused. "She said something weird. 'You can't leave me like Lily did.'" "Who's Lily?" "No clue. But after that day, Daniel just disappeared. He stopped replying to texts. I figured they worked it out." I thanked Jake and left before the encounter could be misinterpreted. I was careful now. Elise had already warped reality once. I couldn't give her more material. Back at the motel, I started researching. Lily, Elise, connection. And then I found it. Lily Chen, Elise's younger sister, died by suicide 5 years ago at 19. The obituary said she was survived by her parents and her older sister, Elise. I stared at the photo. Lily looked just like Elise, same delicate features, same dark, intense eyes. I dug deeper, found a memorial page. Friends had left stories and notes. One comment stood out. Lily was trying to distance herself from toxic family dynamics. She was so close to freedom. The parallels chilled me. Someone trying to leave, someone who looked like Elise, someone who chose death as an escape. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Is this Alex?" a voice asked, elderly, shaky. "Who's this?" "I'm Mrs. Patterson. I live next to Daniel's old apartment. I saw what that girl is saying about you on the news. It's not right." My pulse raced. What do you mean? I've got security cameras. Habit from when the neighborhood used to be rough. They picked up things. Elise evening at strange hours. Arguments the night before Daniel died. She trailed off. Can I see the footage? I can't get involved officially, she said. But if you happen to find a flash drive in your mailbox, well, I can't control where things end up. Then she hung up. 2 hours later, tucked beneath a greasy pizza flyer, I found it. A small flash drive. My hands trembled as I plugged it into my laptop. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Time-stamped, precise. Videos of Elise
arriving at Daniel's apartment at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. on different nights. In one clip, Daniel appeared in the doorway, visibly trying to close the door while Elise wedged her foot into the gap. Another showed her sitting in her car outside the building for hours, just watching. The final video was dated the night before Daniel died. Elise arrived at 11 p.m., carrying a bag. She left at 3 a.m. The bag looked lighter when she left. I copied everything, every frame, to multiple drives, uploaded it to a secure cloud. This was evidence. But of what? Stalking? Harassment? Or something even worse? The next morning, Sarah called. Her voice was tight. We have a problem. What now? Elise has filed a civil suit. Emotional distress, loss of consortium, intentional infliction of emotional harm. She's asking for damages. She's suing me? For what, being impersonated? For allegedly impersonating Daniel and traumatizing her in the process, Sarah said. Alex, her lawyer is good, very good, and her parents are funding all of it. Of course they were. The same parents who once told me I owed it to their daughter to keep her happy. Now they were helping her burn my life down. There's more, Sarah added. She's submitted medical documentation. She's 14 weeks pregnant. I did the math in my head. 14 weeks would place conception around the time Elise started staying in my apartment, around the time she began calling me Daniel, around the time her delusion turned a corner. Sarah, that doesn't match her story about frozen sperm. I know, but now she's claiming that trauma caused her to misremember the dates, that your impersonation triggered memory issues. Elise was evolving her lies, shifting the story every time it bent under pressure. Every time I found a crack, she filled it in. That afternoon, I received an email from Daniel's old employer. They wanted to verify something. Apparently, someone had been calling, claiming to be Daniel's twin, asking about his final timesheet and personal items. I hadn't made those calls. Elise was still actively framing me. I called the company and tried to explain. The HR rep, a woman named Diane, sounded hesitant but not entirely unsympathetic. Actually, Mr. Thompson, there's something else you should know. 2 weeks before he passed, Daniel filed a formal complaint. My heart stuttered. What kind of complaint? Harassment. He didn't name anyone, but he mentioned a girlfriend who wasn't respecting his boundaries. She kept showing up during his shifts. Security had to escort her out twice. Pieces. More pieces. Do you still have the report? We do, but without a subpoena, we can't release it. Another thread pointing toward the truth, but still out of reach. That evening, while scrubbing through the footage again, I noticed something I had missed. In one frame, as Elise was leaving Daniel's apartment, something slipped from her bag. Small, white, rectangular. She scooped it up quickly, but not before the camera caught it. I zoomed in, enhanced it as best I could. It looked like a prescription bottle. On impulse, I called the pharmacy where Daniel used to get his meds. I pretended to be inquiring about my own prescription, casually mentioned my brother's name. "Oh, Daniel," the pharmacist said, her tone immediately softening. "That was such a tragedy. He'd just come in the week before, filled something new." "New?" "For anxiety," she said. "He said he was having trouble sleeping. Poor thing looked so worn down." Daniel never had anxiety issues, never needed medication. What had changed?
I thought about that white bottle, about Elise leaving his apartment at 3 a.m., about Daniel's exhaustion, about how he died. The picture forming in my mind was one I didn't want to see, but couldn't unsee. My thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the motel door. Through the peephole, I saw a man with a clipboard. Process server. I accepted the envelope, hands numb. The civil suit. I sat down and read through Elise's claims line by line. According to her, I'd caused severe emotional distress, endangered her pregnancy, and violated the memory of her deceased partner. The damages she listed? They nearly matched Daniel's life insurance payout. She wanted the money. Everything else, the performance, the pregnancy, the frame job, it all fed into that goal. But there was more. Elise claimed she had video evidence of me practicing being Daniel, footage of me wearing his clothes, mimicking his posture, studying his photos. I knew exactly what she meant. The night she drugged me, she had dressed me, posed me, recorded me while I was unconscious. She had been building her evidence stash for this exact moment. Sarah met me later at a diner.
To discuss strategy. Sarah looked exhausted, hollow-eyed, worn down. "Alex," she said, "I need to be honest. This case isn't looking good. She has documentation, witnesses, physical evidence. You have theories, suspicions. And the footage from Mrs. Patterson's camera, it was obtained illegally, inadmissible. What about the pharmacy records, Daniel's anxiety prescription? They only proved that he was struggling before his death, nothing more. Every piece of evidence I had either couldn't be used in court or could be dismissed as circumstantial. Elise had accounted for everything." "What do you suggest?" I asked, voice low. "Settle," Sarah said. "Give her what she wants. Walk away. She wants Daniel's life insurance money. Then give it to her. It's just money, Alex. Your freedom is worth more." But it wasn't just about money. It never had been. It was about Daniel, about truth, about not letting Elise win by turning grief into a lie. That night, I made a decision, one that could either save me or destroy me for good. I created a new social media account under a fake name and started reaching out to people from Elise's past. Former classmates, old coworkers, college acquaintances, anyone who might have known her before Daniel. Responses came in slowly. Most people remembered her as sweet, but intense, clingy, the kind of person who didn't handle rejection well. Then one message changed everything. I dated Elise for 3 months in college. It ended when she started insisting I was her sister Lily reincarnated. She made me wear Lily's clothes, style my hair like hers. When I tried to break up, she threatened to hurt herself. I had to transfer schools to get away. He included screenshots of old texts. The phrasing, eerily familiar. The same language Elise used with me, about Daniel living through me. About being the same person in 2 bodies. This was her pattern. Find someone who resembled a lost loved one, try to resurrect the dead through the living, and when that failed, I thought about Daniel's sudden anxiety medication, about Elise's late-night visits, about the bag she carried the night before he died. What if Daniel hadn't taken his own life? What if he'd been driven to it? Or worse, what if he hadn't even had the choice? Then my phone rang. Sarah's number. "Alex, where are you?" "At the motel." "Why?" "Elise just filed an emergency injunction. Says you've been stalking her online, contacting her friends. There's a warrant out. You need to turn yourself in." Cold dread washed over me. How did she know? I don't know, but somehow she's been monitoring you, watching your activity. That's when it hit me. She must have planted something, had access to my devices, maybe even installed spyware back when she was still in my apartment.
Sarah, I found something. A pattern. She's done this before. I get it, I do. But it doesn't matter right now. You need to come in before they arrest you. I agreed to meet her at the station in an hour. But first, I had work to do. I gathered everything. The security footage, the messages from Elise's ex, the pharmacy records, the timeline inconsistencies. I compiled it all, backed it up to multiple cloud drives, and emailed it to Sarah and to myself. If I was going down, I wasn't going quietly. As I packed, my laptop pinged. New email. The sender made my blood run cold. Daniel's email address. Subject line: "Stop looking, or she'll do to you what she did to me." The message was short. "Check the news tomorrow. A." My hands trembled. Someone was using Daniel's account. Elise? It had to be her. Another layer of psychological warfare. Another manipulation. Daniel was dead. I knew he was dead. I'd seen him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something big. I arrived at the police station to chaos. News vans surrounded the entrance. Reporters swarmed the steps, cameras flashing, microphones pointed. Through the crowd, I saw Elise giving a tearful interview. One hand rested on her baby bump. She was saying, "I just wanted to move on, but he won't let me. He's obsessed with becoming Daniel, with taking his place. I'm terrified for my baby." The cameras turned to me as I stepped out of the cab. Questions flew like knives. "Why are you impersonating your dead brother? How long have you been stalking Miss Chen? Do you really believe you're Daniel?" I kept my head down, let Sarah usher me through the crowd and into the building. The booking process was a blur. Fingerprints, mugshots, paperwork. The charges were serious. Cyberstalking, harassment, violating a protective order. In the holding cell, I finally had time to think, to breathe. Elise had planned this perfectly. Every attempt I made to find the truth made me look more unstable, more obsessed, more dangerous. And still, my mind circled back to that email. Check the news tomorrow. What was she up to?
To happen tomorrow. Sarah bailed me out after 6 hours. As we stepped into the parking garage, she handed me a tablet. "You need to see this." It was a news article published while I was still in custody. Exclusive: The Disturbing Diary of a Twin's Obsession. The article featured scanned pages from a diary allegedly written by me, pages detailing my supposed descent into madness, my plan to become Daniel, to reclaim what was rightfully mine. The handwriting looked like mine. The content was damning. "I didn't write this," I said, voice cracking. "I know, but it doesn't matter. Public opinion is set. You're the villain in this story now." We sat silently in her car as rain drummed against the windshield. Everything felt hollow, doomed. "There's something else," Sarah said softly. "I did some digging of my own. Elise's parents, they have a history of covering for her." I turned to her. "What do you mean?" "Lily's death. It was ruled a suicide, but there were inconsistencies." "What kind of inconsistencies?" "Lily had filed a restraining order against Elise 2 days before she died, claimed her sister was unstable, dangerous." Another puzzle piece, but still not enough for a legal case. Elise was always one step ahead. "What do I do?" I asked. Sarah looked tired, defeated. "Honestly, run. Leave town. Let Elise have her victory. You've already lost too much." But I couldn't. Not with Daniel's name still twisted, his memory weaponized. Not with the truth still buried beneath Elise's lies. That night, back at the motel, I found another flash drive. No note, no explanation. Just a small black drive tucked beneath the door. I plugged it in with shaking hands. One video file. No title. Security camera footage from inside Daniel's apartment. Dated the night he died. I hit play. The screen filled with grainy footage of Elise entering the apartment, her familiar bag slung over one shoulder. Daniel was already on the couch, slumped over,
motionless, drugged, just like I had been. I watched in horror as Elise carefully staged the room. She posed him, took photos, wrote something on a piece of paper, looked like a note in Daniel's handwriting. Then came the worst part. She roused him, just barely, enough to stand, to stumble, to follow her, dazed and confused, like a child sleepwalking. The video cut out before the final moment, but I knew what came next. Daniel didn't take his own life. He was murdered, and Elise had made it look like suicide. I sat frozen in the motel room, that flickering video seared into my brain. Elise wasn't just unstable. She wasn't just manipulative. She was lethal. And now she was setting me up to be her next victim, if not literally, then in every way that mattered. My freedom, my identity, my life. That email from Daniel's account suddenly made sense. Someone else knew the truth. Someone with access. Someone who wanted me to stop digging before I became too much of a threat to Elise. But who were they, and why warn me instead of going to the police? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me at the old warehouse on Pier 47. Midnight. Come alone. The message sent chills through me. Someone who knew Daniel. Maybe someone Elise had silenced. Maybe someone she missed. Everything about it screamed trap. But I had no more options, no allies, no time. Elise had won every round. She had destroyed my reputation, stripped me of my future, claimed to carry Daniel's child. She had taken everything and twisted it. I had two choices: run or face whatever waited for me at that warehouse. At 11:45 p.m., I left the motel. The city was quiet. Rain slicked the streets, neon lights bleeding across wet pavement. I drove slowly, cautiously. A single traffic stop could send me back to jail. The warehouse loomed at the edge of the harbor, a skeletal silhouette against the water. No cars, no lights. I parked, waited. 11:58, 11:59. At exactly midnight, a figure emerged from the shadows. My heart stuttered. It was impossible. But there he stood, thinner than I remembered, paler, scarred, but alive. I stared, stunned. My brain refused to process what my eyes were telling me. The stance, the height, the tilt of the shoulders, everything screamed Daniel. But Daniel was dead. I'd found him myself. The figure stepped forward, just far enough into the glow of a distant street lamp. Not Daniel. Similar, yes, but wrong. The jaw, the nose, the eyes. The man lifted his hands in peace. I'm Marcus, Elise's ex, the one who messaged you. Relief and disappointment hit me at once. Of course, not Daniel. Dead men don't return. Why the cryptic message? I asked, still on edge. Because Elise monitors everything. Your phone, your laptop. She's got spyware on your devices. I had to make sure you came alone. Marcus looked around nervously. We don't have much time. She'll know you're here soon.
He handed me a thick envelope. Inside were photos, documents, medical records. My hands trembled as I flipped through them. 3 years ago, Marcus said quickly, Elise targeted my roommate, told him he was Lily, her sister, reborn. When he tried to end things, she helped him along, made it look like an overdose. I couldn't prove anything, but I've been documenting her pattern ever since. The pages told the story clearly, disturbingly. Her first known target after Lily, a girl from high school who looked eerily similar to her sister. Then Marcus's roommate, then Daniel, now me. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked. With what? Marcus said bitterly. Suspicion? Circumstantial garbage? Her parents have money, connections. They've been cleaning up her messes for years. He pulled out his phone and showed me a recent text. She messaged me yesterday, he said. She's found someone new. Jake's younger brother. He's 15. My blood turned to ice. The cycle wasn't just continuing, it was accelerating. There's more, Marcus said. That video of Daniel from the night he died, the one you found? I sent it. My friend works building maintenance, pulled it from the backup servers before Elise's parents had it wiped. How do they keep getting away with this? I asked. Small town, Marcus replied grimly. Her mom went to school with the police chief. Her dad employs half the city council's kids. But there has to be someone, I said. There is, Marcus nodded. Detective Rodriguez. She transferred from the city, no local ties. She's been quietly digging. She's expecting your call. He handed me a business card. But listen, Alex, he said. You need to be careful. Elise is escalating the pregnancy story. She pulled the same thing with me, bought a fake belly online. This time she's going further. My phone buzzed. Sarah. I answered. Alex, where are you? She demanded. Elise just filed another report, said you threatened her at the grocery store. There's security footage of you running. I was running away from her. It doesn't matter. Not how it looks. You need to come in, now. I hung up. Marcus was already backing into the shadows. That's my cue, he said. Call Rodriguez tonight. And Alex, whatever you do, don't let Elise near Jake's brother. Then he was gone. I stood in the empty lot, the envelope pressed to my chest, finally seeing the full scale of Elise's sickness. Back at the motel, I laid everything out on the bed. Marcus's files, photos, notes. 3 other victims before Daniel, young men who bore a resemblance to someone Elise had lost, all dead within 6 months of meeting her, all ruled suicides or tragic accidents. I called Detective Rodriguez. She picked up on the second ring. I'd been expecting your call, Mr. Thompson. I have a restraining order. I'm not supposed to. I'll handle that. Side entrance, 20 minutes. The station was quiet at this hour. Rodriguez met me at the door. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed. No wedding ring, no small talk. She led me into a conference room. I've been investigating the Chen family for 6 months. Started when I noticed patterns in the local death records. Your brother wasn't the first. She spread out her own files. They matched Marcus's almost exactly, but went further. Financial statements, bank transfers, Elise's hospitalizations, families paid off. A paper trail of destruction, years long. Why hasn't anyone stopped her? I asked. Money, power, and she's clever. She never leaves direct evidence, always a sympathetic angle, always plausible deniability. She leaned forward. But you're different. You're still alive, and she's getting sloppy. The pregnancy, for example. Rodriguez pulled a document from her file. She had a hysterectomy 3 years ago, complications after a failed pregnancy termination. She can't have children. The fake pregnancy, all of it, it finally made sense. A manipulation tactic. What about Jake's brother? Rodriguez's expression darkened. She's already started grooming him. His parents think it's grief counseling. They don't see what's really happening. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I held it up. Rodriguez nodded. Answer it. Put it on speaker. I did. Elise's voice filled the room. Sweet. Sickly. Twisted. Hi, Daniel. I know you're confused. The medication I gave you that night, it can cause memory problems. But don't worry. I'll help you remember who you are. Elise, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm not Jake's brother. He looks just like you did at 15. Same eyes, same smile, even laughs like you. But don't worry. You'll always be my first choice. Click. Rodriguez was already on her radio, dispatching units to Jake's home. We need more, she muttered. The pregnancy lie helps, but it's not enough.
Her parents will claim mental illness, Rodriguez said. She'll be hospitalized for a few months, medicated, and then released. She'll be out and hunting again within a year. What about the video from Daniel's last night? I asked. Inadmissible, she said. Illegally obtained. But she paused, thinking. Unless what? If we could get her to confess, on record. She's too smart for that. Maybe, Rodriguez said, but maybe not. She's escalating, sloppy. The fake pregnancy, targeting a minor, calling you directly. She's losing control. Then she outlined a plan. Risky, but possible. I'd meet with Elise wearing a wire, try to get her to admit what she'd done to Daniel, what she planned for Jake's little brother. It's dangerous, she warned. We'll be monitoring the whole time, but if she suspects anything... I thought of Daniel, of Tommy, of the future victims if we didn't stop her now. I'll do it. The next morning, Sarah met me at the courthouse. She didn't like the plan, but she agreed to help coordinate the meeting. Legal mediation, she called it, a chance to settle the civil suit out of court. Elise agreed immediately. Of course she did. Another chance to play with her toy. The mediation was scheduled for that afternoon. Rodriguez's team spent the morning prepping me. Where to sit, how to steer the conversation, what to ask. The wire was nearly invisible, but it felt like 1,000 pounds strapped to my chest. Sarah and I arrived early. The conference room was small, windowless, a perfect recording setup. Rodriguez's team waited in a surveillance van outside. Elise walked in with her lawyer and parents. She looked the part. Conservative suit, light makeup, faux baby bump displayed beneath her jacket. The victim, the grieving girlfriend. Her father glared at me. Her mother wouldn't look up. But Elise smiled. That same smile she wore while holding scissors to her throat. The lawyers talked. Terms, settlement amounts. I didn't hear a word. My focus never left her. Finally, the lawyers stepped out to finalize paperwork. Her parents followed. Her father muttered something about needing a smoke. We were alone. Her mask dropped instantly. You look tired, Daniel. I'm not Daniel. She laughed softly. You say that, but your body remembers. The way you're sitting, that's exactly how Daniel sat when he was nervous. I forced myself to relax, keep control. Tell me about Lily. Her eyes narrowed. What about her? She was the first, wasn't it? The first one who tried to leave you. Lily didn't try to leave. She was confused. She thought she needed space. Just like Daniel was confused. But I helped them both find peace. My heart pounded. This was it. How did you help Daniel? He was suffering. All that medication, the insomnia. He couldn't live without me. But he was too proud to say it. She leaned in, voice low and sweet. So I made it easier for him. A few extra pills in his drink, just enough to make him docile. Then I showed him how to tie the knots. He was so peaceful at the end, grateful even. And now Jake's brother? Her smile widened. Tommy's special. He has Daniel's soul. I can see it when he looks at me. He just needs time to remember. You're going to kill him too? Kill? She looked genuinely offended. I don't kill anyone. I help them transition. When they're ready to leave this form and find a new one. Her hand drifted again to her stomach. Like this baby. It's Lily. She's coming back to me. Elise, I said calmly, you had a hysterectomy 3 years ago. Uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Then she laughed. Medical records can be faked. Doctors can be wrong. I know what's growing inside me. She stood, stepped toward me. But you're right about one thing. Tommy isn't Daniel. You are. You've always been Daniel. The other one, Alex, he was just the spare, the shadow. She reached for my face. I caught her wrist. Don't touch me." Her eyes lit up. "See? Even your anger, it's just like his." She pulled away, backing toward the door. "The offer still stands. Come home, be who you really are, and Tommy stays safe. Keep fighting, and I'll help him transition too. Your choice, Daniel." The door opened. Her parents and lawyers returned. Elise's face shifted, mask snapping back into place, calm, sympathetic, grieving. The arrest happened that evening. Rodriguez's team found Elise at Jake's house, sitting with Tommy on the living room floor. She was showing him photo albums filled with pictures of Daniel. The team moved in quickly, quietly, professionally. Elise didn't resist. Even as they cuffed her, she kept smiling serenely, whispering,